disclaimers before I start this video. 1, there's an extremely high chance this video is going to get deleted. 2, I'm doing this because I specifically know that YouTube is screwing me over, so I might as well just leak out random shit. And 3, do not incite panic when you watch this video. Calm down, calm yourself, don't think it's the end of the world just because of the things I'm going to tell you. But I want to tell you guys the truth on something that's happening, something that has happened about human history and human past. So pay attention, but just don't go crazy about it. Okay, so you know how I made a prediction about a year ago saying that countries all over the world, like the superpowers like China, Russia, America, etc., were all going to start buying nations and countries in Africa. They will be buying all of the impoverished nations across the African continent. I told you guys that this was going to happen, and it's already happening now. You guys asked me why, and I didn't answer that. And in this video, I'm going to be explaining to you guys everything that's going on and how that connects with your past as humans. And notice how America has been bombing the entire Middle East for decades, and every single country that America has invaded has all been Middle Eastern. They invaded Palestine and took it. They invaded Egypt and took it. They invaded Syria and took it. They invaded Iraq and took it. They're trying to invade Lebanon now, and then they're going to invade Iran, etc. These are all Middle Eastern countries, and they are conquering every single one of these countries. People need to ask themselves, why are they trying to conquer Africa and the Middle East entirely, and why are they rushing so quickly to do it? And here is why. Everything I'm about to say is classified. On this planet, every 6,000 to 8,000 years or so, there is what I call a global reset. It's when the Earth's magnetic poles shift, and it causes absolutely biblical, enormous catastrophes on this planet. I'm talking like 1,000-foot waves across the whole entire world, volcanoes explode, mountains crumble, etc. To us, it would be considered an extinction or an apocalypse, but to our planet, this is just part of its normal cycle. Evidence of this is actually Noah's flood, which happened 7,000 years ago. Now, whether you believe in religion or not has actually nothing to do with this, because Noah's flood is documented across multiple religions that aren't even Abrahamic religions, meaning not Judaism, not Christianity, not Islam. Other religions all around the world that have no connection to the Middle East discuss Noah's flood, except that Noah just has a different name. Which coincides with what I said earlier, that this planet goes through a global reset every 6,000 to 8,000 years. So Noah's flood was kind of in the middle. There was another huge natural cataclysm before Noah's flood that happened 11,500 years ago, and this is what sunk Atlantis. Atlantis was based in the Sahara Desert, which wasn't a desert at the time. But the logo for Atlantis, according to the CIA, was actually the Tree of Life with a serpent around it. And that exactly coincides with the story of Adam and Eve eating from the tree, and they were tempted by Satan, who was shapeshifted into a snake or something, tempted them to eat from the tree, and then they got casted out of heaven or casted out of Atlantis. What exactly is going on here? There is no historical human data between Noah's flood 7,000 years ago and Atlantis sinking, which was 11,500 years ago. There is a huge gap, and the reason why there's a huge gap is because everything got washed away. What's so crazy is that the last flood happened 7,000 years ago. We are literally due for one. That is why you guys have been seeing so much information or so much conspiracy theories or scientists talk about, you know, the polar shifts moving or the Earth's magnetic field shifting and all of these things happening. The North Pole is moving at an extremely quick rate. It's moving at about 34 miles per year, which is extremely fast, which actually proves that what I'm saying is actually coming towards us eventually. I told you guys this so many times. Hollywood and the Illuminati love to do predictive programming. Predictive programming is when they show you guys things in movies or television shows or even books about things that are actually going to happen in the future. But they just show it to you guys in a way that it seems like science fiction and you don't think it actually happens. I'll show you guys some predictive programming examples of this flood type of scenario. The first movie is Day After Tomorrow, which is basically an apocalyptic movie where this gigantic flood goes over the entire world and floods everything except the Middle East and Africa. Remember that. It also shows New York City completely being flooded by like a 1,000-foot tsunami. Keep that in your mind. The next movie is the movie called 2012, which is a movie based that, you know, that we're all gonna die because of some Mayan calendar, la la la, whatever. In that movie, the Earth's magnetic poles shift and there's a gigantic cataclysm all over the world in terms of nature, and a gigantic flood goes over the whole entire world, washing everyone away, except the Middle East and Africa. And all of the rich trillionaires and billionaires and global government elites all build this like gigantic, you know, boat that literally resembles Noah's flood, and they take that boat and they stay in there and they drive or they sail away to the Middle East and Africa to survive the flood. There's also an Illuminati card that shows New York City completely underwater. And I've made a video about the Illuminati cards before. I highly recommend you guys search it up on my channel and watch it. I'll probably be doing an update on it soon. And even The Simpsons, which is notorious for showing things that happen in the future, actually made an episode where they go into the future and it shows New York City completely underwater, and it shows the North Pole as a desert because the poles shifted. And anytime the poles shift, the entire world's natural habitats go completely upside down. Deserts become forests, forests become deserts, you know, etc., etc. Everything just goes haywire. The reason why all of the superpowers are trying to control the Middle East and trying to control Africa so much is because the Middle East and Africa is known as what? The cradle of civilization. That is not a coincidental term that's constantly thrown out there about the Middle East and Africa. Scientists are always saying that humanity started in Africa and the Middle East. Maybe the reason why humans keep starting there is because every 7,000 years or so, when this global reset happens, the only place to survive, or the only place that doesn't get completely destroyed, is Africa and the Middle East. And that is why it's called the cradle of civilization, because it's literally surviving and holding the last remaining humans that survived this type of apocalypse. That is why all of these superpowers are trying to control the Middle East and Africa, because they know that's the only safe haven, and they know that they need to build their infrastructure there because nowhere else would be inhabitable. To further prove how this is all connected, you know how there's so much conspiracy theories related to Antarctica and why governments are always in Antarctica but they never let anyone actually go there? And I've told you guys this before, that they are building so many bases on Antarctica, and a lot of people question, it's just a block of ice. Why are they building so much infrastructure? Why is this so secretive there? The reason being is that if this were to happen right now, if the Earth's magnetic field were to completely shift right now, which, by the way, it technically can't really be predicted. It's like pulling a rubber band and then all of a sudden that rubber band like rips. You don't know exactly when it's going to rip, but you know it's going to rip eventually by pulling it. When this does happen, Antarctica will actually start to shift and move upwards towards the equator, making the ice melt and turning Antarctica actually into a tropical paradise over time, which means that it will be one of the best places to actually live on. Antarctica actually used to be a forest. Notice what I said earlier in this video. When Earth's magnetic field shifts, things that were, deserts become forests, things that were forests become deserts, things that become ice, lose all of the ice, etc. Antarctica was once a forest, then the flood happened, then Antarctica moved away and became, moved away towards the southern polar cap, and that's why everything froze over. When this happens again, Antarctica will then move back up towards Africa, towards the Middle East, and then become a forest again, which means that it would be land that people can live on. Another question is, what if Adam and Eve weren't the actual first humans? What if they were just one of the remaining humans that survived the flood that happened 11,500 years ago? This is why it's so hard to find human history, because the oldest society that you guys are being told about is Mesopotamian society, which existed around 6,000 years ago, which is 1,000 years after Noah's flood. What happened before that? Where's the societies that exist at 7,000, 8,000, 9,000? They're all completely wiped out, except Atlantis, which we have some evidence on existing 11,500 years ago. And then they got wiped out because of the global resets. We also have human skeletons and mammoths from 18,500 years ago, where they're literally like, their bodies are stuck in place because water went over them with mud and dirt, and it actually preserved their bodies frozen in that way. And you really have to question, how did all of these gigantic mammoths and animals, and how did all these humans all get frozen? When I say frozen, I'm saying frozen in ice. They're preserved in mud. How did they all just get preserved in water and mud, that quickly? Some of them still had foods in their mouths when it happened. That means that they were just doing their normal day routine, and then all of a sudden a 1,000-foot wave just goes right over them. And look, it happened 18,500 years ago, which is 7,000 years before Atlantis. Every single religious prophet in the Torah, in the Bible, in the Quran, are all Middle Eastern. Hasn't anyone questioned that there are no Chinese prophets in religion or European prophets? No, Jesus wasn't white, he was Middle Eastern. Okay, have you noticed that? Like, every single prophet in religion was all from the Middle East. I've said it before in my videos, I've said it so many times on Twitter, and I said ancient civilizations were were extremely intellectual. They weren't cavemen or something. They knew what they were doing. They were doing surgeries, they knew mathematics, they knew science, they knew biology. They knew Saturn had rings. How did a society 5,500 years ago know that Saturn had rings? They can't even see it. I've said it so many times. If humans have been existing for thousands and thousands of years, why did it take so long for us to create technology? And it's because we didn't take long to create technology. We've created technology before. It's just that we keep getting wiped out over and over again. If a global reset were to occur tomorrow, all of this stuff is gone. Computers are wiped out, internet is wiped out, phones are wiped out, all of that is deleted, but like 98% of the human population is gone. The only remaining people, the only ones, whatever knowledge they have is what they can pass down to their kids. So let's say the remaining people knew about the solar system, they knew about the moon and the stars, etc. They will teach their kids this information and they will like draw it on the walls for them, like the way teachers draw on a chalkboard, and they will draw all of the planets and they'll draw Saturn with rings around it. And then 5,000 years from now, people are going to look back and at these cave drawings and say, oh my god, how did they know that Saturn had rings? It's impossible. They didn't have telescopes, but it's just the information from the remaining survivors being passed down. So that's the end of the video. There's more I could say, but this video will just go on for a freaking hour and I don't have time to edit that, and it's probably gonna get freaking deleted anyway. I'm going to be doing a live stream on the DLive platform. If you guys would like to watch it, the link is down below in the description. I will be telling everyone on Twitter before I go live so that you guys can come and watch me and ask me a bunch of questions. So I'm not gonna even say I hope you guys enjoyed this video, because this video is kind of depressing and I know a lot of people are going to ask me, Mo, what are we supposed to do now if the flood comes? I hope you know how to swim. Oh god. Seriously, honestly, there's really not much you can do, and like I said, you can't really predict it, and don't worry about this type of stuff. I made this video just to educate you guys, but I did not make this video to scare you guys.